Could some of you so kind as to grab the public comment? We're just going to move the public comment sheet.
Here it goes.
Mr. Cormack, you might as well start, and by that time, next one.
Okay. Good evening. This is for the facilities meeting according to policy 903. Public comment, which is limited to 3 minutes, should be directed to the presiding officer rather than the individual board members, district employees, or members of the public. Confidentiality and privileged rights, specific comments regarding particular individuals must be communicated privately to the school board or superintendent via email at Penridge School District, schoolboard@penridge.org. And at this point, we're waiting for the write-ins.
Public comment sheet. And I never saw Nancy go out. Somebody came out.
I guess we don't have it.
Oh, she's trying to get it. Thank you, thank you. Mr. Cormack, we have Stephanie Regina in regards to book reading, and on deck we have Missy Kunicorn on book reading as well. Stephanie Regina.
Every time.
Okay. Stephanie Regina.
Sorry.
Can you guys not hear in the back?
It is a little quiet, but I just wasn't ready. All right. It's different.
Smiley face.
There's no smiley face anymore. It's different. And it says on. And
push the on. What happened?
see, it's not me.
That's not you.
Ours still has a smiley face.
Oh,
Yep.
here we go.
It's
Okay.
flashing.
Hello, hello, hello. Not really working.
1 second.
Has to warm up.
Hello. Okay. Stephanie Regina, East Rock Hill. This one's short today. I'm trying to understand some of the book reading stuff going on. So I was looking at like the latest list that got posted, and I actually just have a question because I'm confused now. I noticed that this time it has handwritten numbers on it. It says reason for removal, but I don't understand where you're supposed to see what the numbers correspond to. So that's really just it. Is my question is what those numbers mean.
Thank you. Next up, Missy Kunicorn, book reading, and then Amy Johnson on deck with the same book reading.
Hello, good evening. It's Ms. Kunicorn. I am an employee of Penridge School District. I'm the guidance counselor at Seiler Elementary School. I just wanted to connect it to the book reading. From attending the board meetings and hearing everything that's going on, the topics that are being weeded out of the library are very concerning to me, in line with the trying to kind of like not acknowledge the experiences of different kinds of people, racial groups, genders, different, like people who are from LGBTQ families, people who have experienced trauma. It's really concerning to me as a guidance counselor, and I'm here to just say that I can't say where things are going to go politically. I don't know as an employee what my job is going to end up being. It's pretty frightening. Even more frightening is to watch the families in my school who do not share the majority experience, who are not, or who are LGBTQ families, who are kids who are struggling in some way, that the policies that have been and could be enacted could affect my ability to support them. But what I do want to say is some of the policies already are in direct opposition to my job ethically as a counselor. And in line with what one of our students, Jinx Smalls, said recently at a board meeting, she made a comment about no matter what, she and people like her not going away. I just wanted to say, as a counselor, as a supporter of all races, family groups, histories, experiences, I will never compromise my job. I will never indoctrinate your children, but I will support all of you. I will support all of you, all of your families. I will support all of you if you are bullied, if you are made to feel like you shouldn't exist. I will support you. And I hope that people that agree or are in line with me will continue to share their voices and their experiences. Thank you.
Next up, we have Amy Johnson.
Hi, y'all. Amy Johnson. I've been here before. Philtown Township. And I am your South Middle School art teacher. And I am so damn proud of that. But you know what I'm not proud of, guys? You trying to erase history. This book banning. So you hit our curriculum. You're going to erase history for students and people and groups because they don't align with you. I'm not leaving. I'm here. I'll follow your rules. I'll teach your curriculum. But you can't change who I am. You could strip my classroom. You could do whatever you want. Teachers who teach for students, we're right here. I really don't care what happens with this contract, guys. Because here's the deal. This is bigger than money. You are putting children's lives in jeopardy. That little safe sticker that annoyed you all, do you know what that was for me? That was a place where students who were being bullied in the cafeteria, having their food spit on, guys, by other kids, being told that they should die, go home and kill yourselves. That's in my lunchroom, guys. So you took away that sticker where those students, Jinx being one of them, who I brought here, and I'm so goddamn proud of her. I don't mean to offend any of you. But we're not going away. We're people. And underneath all of this weirdness that you may see, I love my students. And guess what? I love Jesus. Oh my God, I do? Yeah, I follow him too, guys. I'm not blinded by this movement you all, for some reason, align to. Go feed your souls like I do when I go to the museum, baby, I feed my soul with the art that makes me on fire. I can't bring that back to my classroom because guess what? It's not appropriate for middle school kids. And guess what, guys? I know that. So I don't talk to them about that. But I do talk to them about what is the meaning of art? Not how do you shade, but what is the meaning of art? Why do we create? And telling them you started creating things long, long ago, because guess what? That's in the curriculum for Vermillion. I can't even refer to, because I've checked it out, I can't refer to a Paleolithic or Neolithic time period because it doesn't align with what it is that you want me to tell students. I'll do that, guys, but you're not going to change who I am. I'm going to show up. And to all my South students, parents, anyone who is out there, I'm not leaving. And I may have different values than you, and I may look different than you, but I'm aligned with students. Let's all figure this out. If you want to keep Jordan Adams, because you think he's so freaking wonderful.
Ms. Johnson, that was
keep him.
3-minute bell.
Okay, Keith, I'm sorry, I went over, I'm very passionate.
I don't think I had to speak. That is all we have, Mr. Clement.
Thank you, sir. We're going to start off with number 2, a lease proposal. Thanks, Joan. A lease proposal from Penridge Animal Hospital. Mr. Kelly?
So, okay, you come up to the podium, please. So our neighbors at Penridge Animal Hospital are requesting a lease or purchase of about a half an acre of land adjacent to their property, which we have a parcel that extends up beside them on Ridge Road. And I'll let the doctors explain their needs of additional parking.
Push the.
Oh, got it. Hi. All right, hello. My name is Dr. Beth Mahaffey. I'm one of the owners of Penridge Animal Hospital. This is my business partner, Dr. Jen Heller, and this is our practice manager, Kira Berger. So, where is Kira?
She's up there.
Oh,
She's staying.
sorry. Never mind, she's invisible. So we are the owners of Penridge Animal Hospital. We've been here in the Penridge School District area for 10 years now. We actually just celebrated 10 years. But we have sorely outgrown our space. So our practice has grown tremendously because there's such a wonderful community here, and we do not have enough parking to accommodate all of our clients and our staff. So we are sort of maxed out with the property that we own. So one of the things that we were sort of brainstorming is there is this dedicated open space next to us that we were hoping that maybe we could come to some sort of agreement with you guys, that we could lease or we would be open to purchase. We're very flexible. We're looking to add maybe roughly 15 parking spaces. We have provided a general layout that we had drawn up, so you could see what that would look like, and we are happy to, kind of look more into what a fair market value would be for leasing or purchasing that space. We're happy to do all of the work ourselves. We're happy to keep it as a gravel lot, so it could be returned to its natural state after. We would just be looking to have some sort of long-term lease to protect ourselves so we wouldn't lose that parking down the line. But we were really hoping to work with you guys to have something that could be maybe mutually beneficial and would really, really help our hospital. Thank you.
Any questions from the board members?
I think it's a great idea. I see no reason. I mean, two gentlemen on the end, Mr. Harper and Sean, are going to be the ones that are going to do some work on the numbers and all that fine tuning.
So it would just be a parking lot? I'm looking at the drawing. There's a proposed addition that would not be on our property, or just?
That addition is already done, and that's on our property, yes.
Oh, it is. So the line is after that. Okay. I don't see the line, but that's okay. So it's just the parking.
Yeah, like if where the road is, I guess depending on which way you're to the like if you're facing the building to the right, there's our driveway, and that's the end of our property line. And
Okay.
right to the right of that, there's like a little square
Okay. It's fine.
0.48 acre lot.
I just have a question for Mr. Harper. Is there any foreseeable use that we would have for this property in the near future?
For us, it's not really suitable, and it's not large enough for a good use. I think it makes sense for the animal hospital to be able to utilize this in a lease. If they were to purchase it, it would affect our impervious surface, so a lease makes most sense to me. And they're certainly flexible with what kind of arrangements and those options, so I think it could be a win-win.
I think this was discussed before, I recall, a few years ago, and my only concern then is the same as now, that it would be returned, as you said, to the natural, or the state that it's in at this moment. So if that can be worked into the arrangement, I wouldn't mind.
I believe that's already worked into the agreement, right?
Yep.
That's great. That's what I saw as a great asset of, moving forward with this.
Thank you guys very much. We're very excited.
Thank you.
So I think if this is something the board would like to move forward with, I think we certainly would need to have Mr. Miller's firm involved, since this is a legal transaction. A lease would need to be drawn up to benefit, to make sure that both sides are adequately represented within that. So I think we'll take our direction from the board. If you wish us to move forward, then the district will have some costs involved, as far as our making sure that things are done legally and so forth. So.
We'll just make sure that those additional costs are put in the contract.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Presentation from SiteLogics.
Your mic's on.
I guess they're gonna talk anyways.
There you go, there you go.
Good evening. This month, from a facility, from a construction project update, we have just simple forward. The down button's not working. You trying to hit the down button?
Andy, just make sure you're close enough to the mic so everybody can hear.
All right, how about now? I'm sure they don't want to hear me.
That looks good, Mr.
Technical
Francis.
difficulties here.
I'm just giving you a thumbs up, so thank you.
Thanks. So we have 4 items for tonight. First one is just, it's a series of change orders, so we're all financial tonight, unfortunately. First one's a recap of the last of what we would anticipate to be the final change order from the 2022 site work projects. Then we'll roll into 2023 change orders. That's the stuff that's ongoing now. And then we'll revisit Diablo Elementary School's building automation system improvements. That was previously discussed back in June. And then the final one is just a 2-month look ahead. The final change order for the 2022 site work projects with Nice Construction involves a credit to the district of about $5,000, or about in $5,000. And this is in response to the snow scraper when it arrived back in February of 2023. It arrived slightly damaged in transit. The powder coating had some chips in it, but overall was still intact. No functionality concerns. With the district administration, SiteLogic engaged Nice to come to a mutual resolution. This is the documentation that'll solidify that arrangement, which involves a $5,000 credit, an extended warranty, as well as a 4-year preventative maintenance program that's being provided to the district at no cost, obviously rolled in with the $5,000. The second item is just a documentation of work that's being performed at West Rock Hill in response to the unforeseen or unexpected groundwater mitigation. It's partially taken care of during the actual project, but during there we stayed away from the actual storm basin. This particular item is a $0 item, as we're going to utilize portions of a credit in the 2023 project with the same contractor. Any questions on the 2022 change orders? Going into 2023, here's a little bit more activity. The first one, or the first 4, we'll kind of get rolled into one big one. The next slide kind of summarizes them so you don't have to do the math. There is a contract unit price application of unsuitable soils or soft ground that was encountered along the access road coming down from Blooming Glen Road down past the high school. Here we quantify the amount of additional undercutting or additional excavation that the prime contractor had to perform, verify that quantity with the district's third-party testing and inspection agency, and then apply a contract unit price, the unit price that was established at bid time last October, and that results into the $159,807.88. In that same contract, you have a series of owner allowances, and as they have wrapped up that particular contract, or nearing wrapping up that particular contract, there is excess funds in those owner allowances that get returned back to the district in the amount of $23,138.67. The previously mentioned credit is this third item. During the course of the project this summer, we were able to change the specification as we were finding asphalt thicker than we were anticipating. And so in lieu of having the contractor come in and rip all that out and put stone in, the existing asphalt that was remaining was evaluated by K&W, the civil engineer record, determined whether it could stay or go. It could stay. It was allowed to stay in lieu of ripping it out and putting in stone, and that resulted in a less work for the contractor, and thus a credit back to the district in an amount of about $15,000 that was then reallocated to West Rock Hill, and then to the next line item, Central Middle School's sidewalk improvements. Excuse me. At Central Middle School, part of the original scope was to extend the sidewalk from the building down towards, I believe 152. Too many numbers today, sorry. And it followed the curb line pretty tight and even cut through the parking lot. In this particular instance, it was avoiding 2 trees. Those trees were determined to not necessarily be salvageable, and so that allowed and opened up some space for some less, to move the sidewalk further away from the vehicles, be more pedestrian friendly, and then so by doing, also allowed for the grading to be modified on that sidewalk route. That used about $11,000 of that $15,000 credit, coming out to a wash between those 3 items. Then the last item is an all-encompassing line. Last item, we previously discussed this back in, I believe, May and June. This is related to the stop work activity that occurred at the garage project site relating to soils. This extends the substantial completion date from October 31st to November 27th of this fall, 2023. And each one of those, except for Hollenbach, which we're not presenting a change order tonight, all of those are $0 change orders, are essentially for time only. Overall on the project is tracking slightly a few days ahead of the November 27th revised substantial completion date. This is all consistent with all the activities that we did in May to resolve that issue, and this is a formality at this point. Hollenbach will present in September. They are seeking at this present time some additional monies that we don't agree with at the present time, and so we're continuing those conversations alongside Mr. Harper's office and trying to find an amicable resolution to that, and hopefully we'll have that in September. Any questions on these? The next slide is just simply the math on those items. And as it relates to the 2024 capital maintenance, this is on the energy contract, the energy agreement side. In June, we presented an amendment number 9 that incorporated building automation system improvements at Daibler for $544,252. That was removed from that amendment 9 that the board ended up considering and approving in June in favor for the district administration preferring to see a specific system rather than an open network. And that is the Johnson Control System. This incorporates that, so it has it into it at a premium just over $250,000. And then we have a refund back to the district for an invoice that the district incurred earlier this year relating to a past project, the intercom system, coincidentally at Daibler as well, that we're reimbursing the district on. Net result is a $795,064 amendment number 10 for consideration. Any questions on amendment number 10?
Are you able to explain further what the issue is over at the garage? I mean, what's the complication?
The soils?
Yeah.
The soils that occurred back in May?
And so everything's stopped at this point?
No, not now. We're trucking along. We're actually a couple days ahead of that November 27 revised substantial completion. There was a period of just over about 4 weeks, about 19 or so working days in April and May related to imported fill. The suitability of that, as well as the quality of that being approved by the district's third-party testing agency and the prime contractor.
So the stop work event, it's not stopped currently, it just stopped for a period of time.
Correct, it is not stopped whatsoever. And it resumed shortly after May 12th. I think we resumed site on that second Monday, so roughly the 18th or so, plus or minus, and they've been trucking along ever since. If you do a drive-by, you'll see the roof on. The mason is continuing on the sides. They'll be pressing on. We're probably 2 to 3 weeks from the slab on grade inside there, and it's starting to look like a garage.
So going back to the upgrade at Dibler, so it was originally priced at $544, is that what you're saying? Or
Correct. Back in June, the what?
I think I disconnected your mic.
Yeah, something there's a noise.
I moved this and I probably pulled the plug. I think, yeah, I mean, close.
Should I
You
go
tied
wild
into
guy in the
me.
room mode?
You're back on. Sorry about that.
Wait till it steadies.
Andy, turn it off, turn it on. Usually works with a computer.
Maybe punch it.
All right, that's good.
Thank you. To repeat the question, we originally priced it in June. That was part of, it was what we call an open network, that they could utilize any type of manufacturer to consolidate the control system at Dibler. Right now, there's about 3 or more systems controlling that building, and they don't necessarily talk to each other.
Right.
The preference here was that since June was to utilize Johnson Controls in lieu of any manufacturer. Johnson Controls has a majority of the existing facilities within the district.
But they're proprietary, right?
They are proprietary.
So once
and
you
they,
have
and
that,
they know
you're
it.
stuck with them. Yes, I'm well aware of that. So we go from open, now we're stuck with Johnson, and it costs $250,000 more.
That's the difference between then and now, correct.
Well, it seems like a lot of money to be tied into somebody. Does it save maintenance costs because we're all using Johnson throughout everywhere else, or is there some savings? Or we're just paying more money for a proprietary system instead of an open one?
In my opinion, it goes, everybody's got a preference, and some's got plus, some's have minuses. There is a certain advantage when you have one system across all of the district, and that's generally most districts' goal, is to get onto one network or one system. Ease of operation, ease of maintenance.
Yeah, no, I understand.
It's certainly, those are attractive qualities that do result into cost savings long term.
Yeah, not $250,000 probably. Okay, I guess you guys want that, you want to speak to
Right,
that?
let me just add some
Yeah.
value to that. So I think there is economy and scale by keeping with the same vendor. If we were to go out and get a new contract for a whole separate system, we wouldn't get the same discount per se. If we have all 13 of our buildings, 11 schools have Johnson Controlled Metasys. If we were to go with a different system exclusively at Dibler, it wouldn't talk to our other systems. Our people that are trained on those same systems now would have to learn a whole new system. And is it really a preference? That may be fair to say. And the budget numbers that you see in front of you, I liken it to, we asked to get a truck, and they provided a number for a truck, but we prefer GMC. We work on GMC, we're familiar with them. We asked for the brand JCI because of those reasons. And I do believe there is some savings because we have contracts with that vendor at all other buildings.
That's fine, it just seems like an awful lot. If we were to do all 10 buildings over, that's $2.5 million for a system that's similar that you could get for a lot less. I know we can't do that, but that's a lot of money. That's
True.
what it seems
If we
like.
were trying to convert all of our buildings to an open protocol system, it would be no less than $500,000 per building multiplied out. I don't know if it's really worth that effort to put in, or we're going to have the economy of scale by adding Dibler to this list.
We're stuck with it.
Any other questions? So looking forward for the next 2 months, for August and September, we're seeking the approval of the change orders at the the August 28th board meeting on the 2022-2023 projects, as well as the Guaranteed Energy Savings Act or Amendment number 10, agreement number 10, guaranteed energy savings agreement, amendment number 10. Next month, at this committee, we'll be looking to discuss the 2023 site work, salt garage change orders, extenuation of today's conversations. We'll also have bid results to review and submit to the board for acceptance and approval, as well as review those contracts and possibly either award or reject them. That'll be for the signage, wayfinding signage throughout the high school, middle school campus, as well as the repaving, which is your final phase of your 5-year plan on the paving project. And then we're putting down as a target, we've been asked to add site electrical improvements at the district support center. We recommended the administration to do this under the Energy Savings Act in order to preserve the bid period that's out on the street this week for the paving, and to hopefully encourage interest on those prime contracts. If we convoluted and added in non-paving activities, we were concerned that we would get disinterest, and we're trying to not create a situation that we had last October where we only got one responsive bid. And that would carry over in the September 26th meeting, et cetera. Any questions in the next 2 weeks, or the next 2 months?
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next topic is Bud. Hold on a second. Excuse me. Our next topic, next subject matter is the bus bid pricing. Sean, do you want to take care of that?
Yes, I'll handle that. If you recall, we went out to bid for 6 72-passenger buses over the summer, and also one 26-foot box truck with a lift gate, and we were looking for a used box truck. Regarding the 72-passenger buses, we received 4 bids back. The lowest bid was $127,182 per bus. The highest bid was at $147,878 per bus. We also received no bids on the 26-foot box truck, and we listed 5 vehicles, buses, to trade in with the sale or with the purchase of the new buses. So in the end, it comes down to Wolfington Bus Company for 2024 model buses at a total of $763,092 with $5,000 credit for the trade-ins for the 5 vehicles for a total cost of $758,092. And our budget this year for buses was $850,000. So that also allows us the room we need to purchase the box truck on the open market, since we received no bids. So that is the report on the bus bids this year.
What's the difference between the 2024 and 2025?
We actually we actually bid 2024 model years, and the 3 of the companies came back and quoted 2025s, and Wolfington also quoted 2024. I believe it's just the increase in the market cost from one year to the next.
So there's no like big improvements or safety things or anything?
No, I don't believe so.
That's a lot. That's a big price jump for same model.
Well, before, we always talk about everything before COVID and since COVID, but before COVID, when we were buying buses in the $90,000 range for a 172-passenger bus, and the cost has increased to $127,000 per bus. So we've seen a huge increase in cost of buses since.
I think we said this before, but knowing that we have all the different makes of bus in our current fleet, there's not one bus that's more reliable or different or more preferred than another, or are there any distinctions?
Probably a better question for Jessica Kraus for sure than me, but we do have a number of different buses in the fleet. We do have Bright Hills, the Bluebirds, and we also have some internationals. And but our mechanics are, they seem to be able to work on them all. They're trained in all of them, and they do a pretty good. No, they do a great job keeping the bus fleet in working order.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Let's look at the middle school lighting system replacement.
So this is for Central Middle School, and this is a new capital project. So at Central Middle School, the auditorium lighting has been failing for the past several years. It is original to the building, and the effects of this are the house lighting you see in front of you and the stage lighting in the back. The whole dimmer system, controls for all the theatrical lighting, that system isn't repairable. And what you see in front of you is a quote from Center Stage and Illuminated Integration. I reached out to 3 different vendors. One of them chose not to give us a price on those. The 2 that did give us pricing, Center Stage is $236,800. Illuminated Integration was $354,680. That's almost $120,000 more for a comparison bid. Center Stage Lighting did the lighting controls for us here in the high school auditorium, as well as South Middle School. So the students that come up from the middle schools in the theater, that they'll work on the same system if this is approved that they would have here at the high school. So they'll be familiar with all those lighting controls. But again, it is a failing system. Lights have gone out. I don't know if we ever canceled any performances, but it's a good possibility we could have a full house, lights go out, and we can't bring them back on. So I'm recommending Center Stage Lighting to do the replacements. It will replace all the standard lighting with LED, a new dimmer rack, and the various other components listed here. Any questions?
Sounds pretty straightforward.
Hearing none, I guess we'll move forward. Next on our lease, excuse me, I'm trying to get my act together here. Let's,
It's the,
I know, I'm there, yeah, I'm right there, I just have to get the right thing. We're looking at obsolete items for review. Dibler Elementary School, obsolete items. We've looked at library books and public surface, surplus lot 08-01. Before we actually attack that situation, I did get a response from Dr. Labarchek, Dr. Shive's office, and the libraries, and based on our last meeting, Mr. Wirtz wanted a complete review of all the books that were being released from the high school. I got a report from the proper parties, and I submitted that to Mr. Wirtz, so he had received that information. We got a complete review of each book and how it was moves itself with Policy 109, and it's pretty complete, telling us exactly what we're looking at from obsolescence, physical condition, number of copies, coverage of content by other materials, value to total collection, changes in curriculum emphasis, infrequent use, insufficient space, and more appropriate alternatives. So each book was looked at, and I made sure that the information went out to Ron in sufficient time to review all the boxes. So we have done exactly that, looked at everything in the high school obsolete columns, and we have complete documentation on why it was released. Ron, do you have any questions on that?
Well, my only question, I think it was asked before, is what the numbers mean, and they are on a policy.
Yep.
So it's part of the release. It's from 1 to 9, and that's the numbers correspond. And somebody had that question before to why it was removed. So, but it might have been a little confusing.
Okay, we'll move on then. Dibler Elementary School, looking at library books, public surface, the surplus, lot 0801. Can I have a motion? Nope.
This is in the committee.
That's right, committee meeting. Any comments on removal of books?
Just maybe for the public to have an understanding that, I mean, we're not involved in any of the removal process, right? I mean, can anybody speak to that? and we don't go through each of these books as a board member to go through that. We ask the library to go through it, they identify with the numbers that are in the policy, and then it goes forward from there, right?
That is correct. Okay. Number C, Grass Elementary School.
So that would be
Christine has a
Sellersville.
comment.
Mr.
Oh.
Cormack, will we be posting that updated list on the website or online for the public to be able to view it?
It's on there.
It's on the
updated
site.
one is,
Yes.
It is
Okay.
on there, it was changed.
Okay,
It
very
was
good.
changed.
Thank you.
But you have to look at the policy that's included to get the key to figuring out what's going on.
All right, next, elementary, Sellersville Elementary School. Discussion, library books, public service lot 0802. Any comments, questions?
It's all books, right? Library books.
All right, hearing none, Grass Elementary School, library book, public service, lot 08-03. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, Siler Elementary School, various equipment and recycled trash, lot 0804. Next on our list is West Rock Hill Elementary School, obsolete items, TV, recycle, lot 0805, TV, VCR cart, recyclable scrap, lot 0806, testing material, lot 07, textbooks, donate, 08, library books, 09, library books, public surface, 010. Okay, not hearing any questions. South Middle School, textbook donate lot 811, textbook donate 812, and library books public surface 813. Any questions? Hearing none. Go to middle school. We're looking at discussion of music items, donate lot 80814, cello rack trash 15, textbook donated 16, filing cabinet scrap 17, textbooks donated 18, dial balances public surface 19, textbooks donated 20. Any questions? Moving on, North Middle School, textbooks donate lot 08-21. Not hearing any.
I did have a question on South, and all the weeding lists coming out of the middle school and the elementary school are nice format, printed out off a computer, and the high school one is written by hand, or a lot of, was there a difference in the system or something?
No, that was done specifically per your request to make sure it got done right away.
Do you notice the difference though? There's a report that comes out that I've never seen it for the high school. Do we do that one for the high school? I know you probably don't know that answer.
I would have to go to Mr. Labarchek, Dr. Labarchek.
I'm just curious. The elementary schools and the middle schools have a nice printout of what's being removed.
Correct. So each of the schools have done their own system over the years that have evolved. But as I indicated to Mr. Cormack earlier with the high school and looking for the specific reasons based on the policy, we're going to just make it consistent around all 11 schools coming starting this fall.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Are we back up to the high school? Do we do middle school?
We
We did.
put your microphone on and it's, yeah, I think you're at the high school.
We're at the high school. Okay. Discussion, lab tables, public surface, textbooks donate, textbooks donate lot 25, textbook donate lot 26, science tables, surplus and trash, and library books. Any questions?
Just, I know we say we don't pick books out, and I know we don't as a board pick them out, but there's certainly a lot of coincidences here in the number of books that were removed. And I know a number of people have looked into this, and I'm just curious where these books, I mean, I see what the reasons are, and there seems to be a pattern here that's not explainable, but I'm not really looking for an answer on this one. But something's going on here.
Oh, that's a good question, but I don't have an answer for you because it
I didn't
seems
ask.
very legitimate to me from my review, so. Okay. Moving on, Transportation Department. Yeah, did we already do that one? Yes.
Well, no, not really.
Not really.
But it's just pertaining to, I mean,
Yeah,
Sean
we-
already really pretty much
Sean,
said.
we've already gone over this. You want to do this again, or?
We just have this, the transportation part, we have the box truck, the old box truck that we're gonna sell on municipal bid because we were able to find a used truck to replace it. So we're gonna take the old one and sell it on municipal bid. So yes, we've kind of went through that one.
Thank you, sir.
Just as to the buses themselves, you had mentioned that we were trading in 5, but we're getting 6 new buses. Is this the 6th bus that's just being scrapped? It wasn't traded in?
Yeah, this bus has a bad engine and is not worth the cost of replacing the engine, so we're just scrapping the bus.
So the 6 buses that we're getting in new are actually replacing 6 buses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Done? Moving on, Technology Department, August Recycling Lot 0828. All right. The next Facilities Committee meeting is scheduled for September 11th, 2023.
All right, actually, we have the end of Facilities Committee meeting, we have 2 public comments. Ross McLennan, the weeding log, and Stephanie Regina in reference to the weeding.
Ross McLennan, Hilltown. Thanks, Ron. You know, I got a question. If a book is shown as taken out for a year, which apparently we've, through discovery, found this out, how can you determine frequency of use? I think we need to be more forthcoming. Okay, the biggest threat to Penridge community today is not LGBTQ, it's not teachers, it's not books. It's moving toward a fascist theocracy, and everything that's happened during the current board is steering us right down that pipe. And it's scary. This book thing, it's not going away, I guarantee you that. As much as you would like to get those books tossed, they're coming back. Thank you very much.
Stephanie Regina?
Stephanie Regina, East Rock Hill. Okay, so thank you for answering that question before. I'm sorry I didn't have that answer myself. These things aren't online for that long before the meeting, so I didn't have time to try to look at the documents in detail before the meeting. I tried to print the reading log, at least for the high school, before this meeting so I could kind of look at it, while we're waiting. And there were so many pages of books we're getting rid of that my kind of old printer didn't print them all in time. So I didn't have the last several pages explaining the rather elaborate code of how and why these books are being banned. So I apologize for asking that question. So now I understand, I appreciate that. So here's the thing. Well, for one thing, we had this very passionate teacher from South talking about the book banning. So I was like, you know what, while I'm sitting here, let me try and get a signal and pull up the list for South. There is no number code yet for the books being weeded at South. The ones at the high school are handwritten. Now I understand you were trying at the last minute get these reasons put on here because we've demanded them. But here's the thing. They should have been there in the first place, first of all. And the fact that they're not points to how you are trying to keep quiet the removal of books that the community never had the opportunity to give their input about before they were removed. And this idea that, oh, you're not the ones who remove them. No, you don't physically remove them. You design the policy that puts the onus on the librarians to remove them, or else they'll lose their jobs or whatever they have to fear from you. That's all.
Thank you. Moving on to facilities finance. All right. Facilities, here we go. Let's see the agenda. Starting off with public comment. We just have Stephanie Regina. I should have just had you stay up there. You are next up for public comment for finance. Stephanie Regina?
Oh, yes, I
Yep.
didn't know which one to put it on.
All right, moving on. That was the only public comment. Contract for approval. Mr. Donbert, please.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. We have a number of contracts this month for approval. The first contract is the Devereaux Foundation. It's an extended school year program for July 1st through August 31st. And the costs are differentiated on the attachment A if you would like to look at those. The next contract is the New Hope Academy. It is also for educational services for a student identified as 2024-01. Cost is $40,900, and it's for the 23-24 school year. The next contract is the Council of Southeast Pennsylvania Incorporated. This is for services to the student assistance team, and it is for the 23-24 school year, and the cost for the services provided is $39,800.
I just had a question for that one. Is this new, or is this something that we've had before? It's like a renewal?
This is a renewal.
Okay, and then just a little bit more information. Not sure if you have it, or if I need to just email, just kind of more specific as to what services do they provide, and are they directly working with students, or just with the professional staff who are doing the SAP program? Not sure if there's any information on that. Or like I said, I can email whoever.
I'm not sure if Dr. Rabarchek knows that. If not, we can talk to Mrs. Summers and get those answers, as this would be an area that she handles.
We'll direct the questions towards Ms. Summers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next contract is letter D. This is Dr. Joseph Warner. He reviews student IEPs for health-related services. It's for the next school year. It's $175 per hour, which is the same cost as the previous year, and this is also a renewal contract. The next one is ATG Learning Academy. This is for educational services for a student identified as 2024-02. The cost is $107,098, and this is for the 23-24 school year. Next contract is the Grandview Hospital, doing business as Upper Bucks Orthopedics at Grandview Health. This is for medical coverage at our home football games, so that we have a doctor on site. The cost is $150 per home football game, and that is no change from the current year. Next contract, the next few contracts are with the Bucks IU. The first is the Early Childhood Programs Memorandum of Agreement for 23-24 school year. There's no cost to this. This is just the district providing a site location for that program for next year. Next contract is, again, Bucks County IU. This is the annual Technology Pool Consortium Agreement for 23-24. The cost for Penridge is $807.53 for the entire year. That is the same cost as last year. It is the same firm that's done that for a number of years. The next is, again, Bucks County IU. This is for the Mobile Fab Lab. Visits the grade schools, and the cost is $1,800, and that is for the 23-24 school year. Next is Imagine Learning, blended learning online program to support our English language learners for the 23-24 school year. Cost is $10,800, and that is an increase in cost from $9,000 last year. Next is Screencastify. This program is for remote delivery of professional learning to professional staff. Cost is $11,058, same as last year. The next contract is the Brain Show. This is for North Middle School Assembly on September 15th. Cost is $2,150. And the last contract is Lenovo Financial Services. This is the second part of the leasing agreement for next year. This is for the one-to-one laptops and this lease is for 48 months, 2023 through 2027. Excuse me. And the lease factor is 0.25448. The payment is $218,497.80 per year for the 4 years of those laptops.
Thank you, Mr. Delbert. Moving on to...
Can I just ask a question on that? The last board meeting, we didn't renew one of the contracts, and I thought it was tabled for further evaluation, but I don't think I see that company in this list, and I forget the name of the company, but Jordan, I think you raised a question about that. What's the status of that? Do you remember this?
Yeah, I believe we received an email on that they withdrew.
So do we have somebody else that's taking that role, or who in this list, or who's providing those services?
No, the email, they said they would look for that. I feel like that would be to somebody else.
Because one of the concerns was we didn't want to have a gap in our services that were being provided. So can anybody speak to that as to whether someone else has been hired to provide those services, or where does that stand?
Dr. Schneider, do you?
I just want to let you know that Mrs. Summers is working on that.
Okay,
She
that's what I was
hasn't
going to say. That I was going to
included
direct it
anyone
by Mrs. Summers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So for the beginning of the school year, then, what is the plan? No
We
plan?
don't have someone in place yet.
Okay.
All right, so moving on with the student activity accounts. Dr. Sean.
Yeah. All right, we just have a few student activity accounts this month. They're all at Central Middle School. We have the general purpose account for renewal and carryover, the student council account for renewal and carryover. They have a yearbook account, renewal and carryover. They have a service learning club, renewal and carryover. And they also have a drama club and renewal and carryover. So that's all we have for student activities this month, getting set up at Central.
Thank you, Mr. Delbert. And then moving on to the Answers Running Loss Update presentation.
Actually, I would like to go back to that, the contract that was
Sure.
tabled that we're not discussing tonight, and we don't have a plan for. I mean, there are still students, I assume, who need that service on the first day of school. So I would appreciate, if we could find out how those students are going to be cared for on the first day of school, and until we have someone that we can contract with. So we just don't pull the ground out from underneath these people that were counting on that service.
Dr. Shai, will we be able to get an update?
Don't push out from my seat.
You'll just come right up and give us an answer.
I'll just tell you what I know because there's our little thing. Oh, no.
Because Mrs. Summers isn't here, I can tell you what I know. She is looking for alternate company to replace those services. We have met with the high school principals to come up with a plan to meet the needs of those kids. We have not yet, as I've said, secured that. But there has been discussion on who the kids are, what they'll need, what alternate services that we could provide while we wait to see what a service that can replace what we were working with the last few years. And we'll talk to Mrs. Summers to provide an accurate update as the coming weeks approach.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Roach.
Okay, as many of you may remember, this is our last year in regards to the ESSERS funding that we have received. It was just over $5 million. So we are just over $1 million that is remaining. And this is what has been proposed for this coming school year so far. And anything new we will bring forth as we move into the first couple months of the school year. But for right now, what we're looking for is in order to address continued student learning loss, is putting some additional teaching assistants into the classroom, especially specifically during math and RELA time. So we had last year at the elementary level at our non-title schools, 1 teaching assistant to support the teachers in grades 3, 4, and 5. For that reason, for the RELA component. And this year we're looking to add 10 additional teaching assistants, having 2 per building, 1 for math and 1 for reading, and being able to circulate throughout the classrooms to work with small groups and specific interventions. We're looking at adding the 1 additional teaching assistant at the targeted full-day kindergarten program that will be held at Bedminster this year. So we now have 3 classes in place, 1 at Sellersville, 1 at West Rock Hill, and 1 at Bedminster that will now host students from all 7 elementary schools. And then we're looking for 3 additional middle school teaching assistants, 2 per building. This past year we had 3 total, and now we're looking to double that. So we have 2 per building, 1 in math and 1 in reading. And then 2 additional elementary teaching assistants to support our special education students. We've had a little bit of increase at the elementary level, specifically our primary grades. So Mrs. Summers asked to come forward and ask if we could support that with additional teaching assistants. So we thought that would be most beneficial. And then we have the second item is GEODS. It's a collection of accessible knowledge building books. They're decodable classroom libraries that we would provide to each class in grades K and 1 as for this to support our emerging and developing readers. And this supports our Foundations program that we've put into place now into first grade as well. We extended that last year using the ESSERS funds. So this would just be a continuation and build on supporting those students. And the last piece is we've had such great overall success with our Foundations program that there was a specific request from building principals in regards to level 2, grade 2 students who may just need that additional specifics, that additional support and very drilled down to their needs. So we're looking at purchasing 1 level 2 kit for each of the elementary schools that could be utilized by both the reading specialist and or classroom teachers during their power hour instruction, which is that EI time. So that's where we are and what we would propose right now. This is just an overall reminder again, just over $5 million. The requirement was just over $1 million to be spent on learning loss. And I'm extremely proud to say, just on behalf of the teachers, the administration, the principals, we have spent just about 98% of all these funds towards learning loss. So it's a great deal of success in regards to helping students regain what they lost during that time. All our funds must be spent by September 30th of 2024. So any remaining funds are going to be used again for the summer programs during the 23-24 increment. So that this next summer coming up will be the last summer we have to use any of the additional funds. And we've used those funds to support all of our summer ESY, ELL, and elementary enrichment camp, as well as the middle school fun camps. So that's where we are. Any questions?
How many open teacher assistant jobs do we have posted right now?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can't.
I thought it was pretty high.
There are a number of openings, and I have this one posted as an anticipated.
Okay.
Since I needed to present it first, it's always a stakeholder meeting, stakeholders coming together and just reviewing and seeing what's being proposed. And of that, I know that we've had many apply for these positions. We haven't gone through the screening process.
So you think you'll be able to fill?
For the majority, we'll see what comes of the screenings and the actual interviews.
Now, would these be? What are you going to do next year with this?
So again, I understand. So like any of the programs we have proposed during this last 3 years, using the ESSERS funds, it's something that we're going to have to come back and evaluate to the fullest extent and look at the metrics to measure whether or not they've been successful programs and how we are going to incorporate these into the general budget from that point forward.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, moving on, an update to the Penridge 2021 property tax rebate program. Mr. Ness, Mr. Gelbert.
Thanks, Mr. Rice. This was the third year of our tax rebate, senior citizens tax rebate program for real estate taxes. If you recall, we kind of piggybacked the state program. If our citizens apply for and receive a rebate, senior tax rebate from the state of Pennsylvania, they then qualify for the Penridge tax rebate. We have a one-page form that they fill out, send in along with proof that they received a rebate from the state, along with their state rebate form that they send in. So we kind of go on, if the state, if they're good enough to get money from the state, they're good enough to get money from the Penridge program. So this last year, we had 255 of our senior citizens receive the rebate. That totaled $21,375.94 returned to our senior citizens taxpayers. That's actually down a little bit from the second year. We were at 276 people, $22,924 last year, and the first year was $20,637. So we're fairly consistent over those 3 years, but the program seems to be working. Gets funds back to our most needy senior citizens. It is a time-consuming program, though. My administrative assistant spends a great deal of time on the phone and meeting with senior citizens and helping them through the process. So a huge thank you to Mrs. Schuler for the work she does every day with those folks. She does a wonderful job.
Thank you, Mr. Delbert, and to your team. All right. Let's see, we got public comment, final public comment. There's no public comment? All right, so the next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for September 11th, 2023. If it's okay, we'll take. Everybody's watching. All right, we're going live. All right, if we could everybody find their seats and quiet down, please. We're going to start the special board meeting August 14th, 2023. Ms. Manis Clemens is attending via the phone, so I have her right here. We're going to call the meeting to order. Salute to the flag, please.
Anybody want a flag pin?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Chen, what do you
Mrs.
Vance Clemens. Ms. Baczynski.
Here.
Mrs. Blomgren.
Here.
Mrs. Jagan.
Here.
Mr. Cormack.
Here.
Mrs. Cullen.
Here.
Mr. Rice.
Here.
Mr. Russell.
Here.
Mr. Wurs.
Here.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment. All right. All the use items pertaining to agenda items. So we have Lydia Raymer Hunter, personnel report. And up on deck would be April Foltz, the superintendent selection.
Good evening. Lydia Raymer Hunter, Percy Borough. I'm a parent of 3 students at Guth Elementary, a high school math teacher, and the president of the Penridge Education Association. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the teachers, counselors, librarians, specialists, and other professional staff to urge the school board to finalize a tentative agreement that both sides can vote to adopt as a new collective bargaining agreement. When we first exchanged proposals last winter, the gap between our two sides looked hopeless. We started with more than 30 issues and miles between our economic proposals. Through the spring and summer, we have continued to meet and have repeatedly found common ground. The proposal made public by the district last week shows many areas with tentative agreements, leaving only a handful left to negotiate. At this point, even our salary and health care proposals are very close. However, the unresolved issues have a deep impact on the ability of professional staff to do their jobs well, and it is important to foster constructive work conditions. Sadly, this summer, the Penridge community has seen the consequences of a non-competitive collective bargaining agreement as other districts recruit both new and experienced teachers from Penridge, leaving our district scrambling to fill the vacancies. The prospect of starting the school year under the cloud of uncertainty and worry of an unsettled contract is not good for our teachers, our students, and our community. A settled contract that recognizes the importance of not just competitive salary and health insurance, but also working conditions that best serve the students and staff of Penridge will allow our district to attract high-quality new teachers and retain the experienced staff we already have. We, the professional staff of Penridge, look forward to the bargaining session scheduled on Thursday evening and reaching an agreement with the Penridge School District prior to the beginning of school. For the sake of the families and students we serve, it's time to get this finished. Thank you.
Next up, April Foltz. And on deck is Katie Renee.
Hello, April Foltz, West Rock Hill Township, Penridge parent. So my comments tonight are related to the IU contract for selection of the new superintendent. So I read through the contract on board docs, and on the surface it seems pretty straightforward. I do have a few questions though that I hope can be answered tonight during your discussion on this topic. First, it's not clear why the contract is being signed with a retroactive date. Why wasn't it in place prior to the start of the process? And at this point, does the contract accurately reflect any actions that are already taken? Second, it's not clear to me from the contract which board members are included in the process. Are all 9 of you given an opportunity to participate in the pre-meetings, interviews, and selections? If not, how is that determined? Since you have already begun the process, we would appreciate if you could please share the board members who are active participants. Third, I and many others appreciated the community survey as an opportunity to get some input on the issues that are important to us. However, I think that many of us who completed that survey are a little confused on what the results actually mean. The data, at least as I read them, could be interpreted in a few different ways. As part of the discussion tonight, could you please share the critical few issues and attributes that you are seeking in a qualified candidate? Given that the contract is retroactive, Section 2 of the contract indicates you already do have that attribute list. And finally, it seems you've neglected to engage a very important set of stakeholders, the teachers and administrators. While they could participate in the community survey, those data are normalized. And our teachers' input really should be weighted differently, as they are the people who will work with and for the new superintendent on a daily basis. They also have much more insight to the needs of the students, both academically and socially, are familiar with current curricula and academic standards, and they know where we have opportunities to improve. Not leveraging at least 1 or 2 teachers or administrators in this process represents a huge missed opportunity to find the right organizational fit. Numerous studies, and for many of us, real-life experience as people managers, support that panel interviews with members who have different roles, levels, and experiences minimize both conscious and unconscious bias, create a better candidate experience, and offer a more well-rounded view of the candidates, allowing you to make the best decision. I hope this oversight is truly that, and not any reflection of distrust or attempts to devalue our teachers' experience or judgment. While I know you already have a draft contract, it's not too late to change it, especially since you're already making it retroactive. There's still time. Given the importance of the superintendent position to all of us, our students, parents, and community, in addition to our teachers and administrators, I ask you to seriously consider involving them in the process as representatives. I would also be interested to hear how, if you don't do that, you will address any potential bias in the process. Thank you.
Katie Renee. And next on deck is Bradley Merkel-Gump.
Hi, Katie Renee, Percy Borough. Although I'm wearing green, I'm not a teacher. I'm here as a community member and Penridge parent in support of the teachers. I'm concerned by the personnel report and by the number of vacancies across the district and the resignations, and I fear that those will continue based on the outcome of the negotiations on the teacher contract. So I'm here to ask that you close the gap that Ms. Raymer-Hunter just mentioned and give our teachers a fair contract that will continue to attract and retain excellent teachers. I'm not just here for my own selfish purposes that I want my children to have wonderful teachers. I'm also here because the teachers deserve that for their own families. So please continue to work with them for a fair contract. Thanks.
Bradley Merkel-Gump.
Bradley Merkel-Gump, Percy, parent of 2 students at Guth. Welcome back. It's lovely to see you all this evening. I wish to speak on the dire situation the actions of the board majority have placed us in as shown on the personnel report. The situation is so dire that we had to be here for this special meeting tonight. After enduring years of ill treatment at the hands of this board, years of low pay, and recently ever-increasing degrees of disrespect and disregard of their professionalism, teachers this year resigned in unprecedented numbers. Even still, as our teachers are prepping to start the school year for our children, they're fighting for a fair contract that will give our schools the ability to attract and retain the best teachers for the benefit of all Penridge students today and for years to come. As a district, we have started to develop a reputation as a place for teachers to avoid or to use as a stepping stone onto other positions. I urge you, please start treating our teachers like the amazing professionals that they are, so we can end the attrition rate amongst our teachers from our schools. Then we won't have to continue having meetings like this one, because we have found ourselves in a staffing crisis of the board's making. Please, for the benefit of the future of our kids and our community, fix this. Thank you. Have a lovely evening.
Just so we will recognize Adam Benzik, Stephanie Regina, and Amy Johnson in the second comment period. Moving on.
Wait, mine's basically, I don't know what I wrote, but I mean, I'm talking about like issues with personnel board, I guess, on the state.
Actually, what you wrote was PEA negotiations, which is not on the agenda.
Well, I'm talking about personnel as well. But it's no different than what was just spoken about, so.
It's really up to the president.
Please.
Thank you.
Hi again. Microphone.
Okay. Hello again. I'm still Stephanie Regina from East Rock Hill. So my overall comment stems from the fact that, again, I was taking some time to try and go through the various documents that are put up a couple days before these meetings. And yes, there's a lot of space, just blank space for unfilled positions. So there you go, personnel. Hey, there's also a job fair coming up, right? Because, why not take the speed dating approach to trying to fill these positions? I shouldn't say that because that's kind of like an insult to speed dating. Like, that's okay if that works for you. But I feel like that doesn't work for hiring teachers. So, the desperation look is not a good one for us. I would, there are a lot of things I want to touch. I'm going to just try and keep this simple. The fact that also, to go back to email, you put out an email putting out one side of a negotiation without letting the teachers know you were going to put that side out there without any context. Like, it's almost as though you don't like them. It doesn't put out a good image for our district that you are disrespecting the teachers by putting them on a difficult footing, because it puts them like on the defense when you do that. So that's going to decrease morale even further for them. It gets to the point where it starts feeling like you know that we have a staffing crisis. There's a lot of rhetoric out there about it being, it's nationwide. Yes, there's a nationwide shortage. All the more reason you need to have competitive contracts that are complete in order to get those teachers to come here. Because why in the world, when it's a teacher's market, so to speak, okay, like they could go anywhere right now. Why would they come here in the middle of this tumult? So why you would take the time to put an unnecessary email out there rather than just complete the contracts and show your good faith that you want teachers to stay, that you want teachers to come. Like, why is that not obvious? And frankly, the only solution I can come to, the only conclusion I can come to, is that you're trying to smoke teachers out. You're bringing in this consultant and making all these widespread changes that the community at large has mostly rejected, and you're ignoring them, you're ignoring the teachers, and now you're basically creating an environment that discourages them from staying or from coming here. You're trying to smoke them out and hire yes men in the long run. Have a good night.
Next.
No. I'm Amy Johnson, and I too.
No, actually.
I think that you think climate is
Johnson,
something
you
different.
know that's not on the agenda. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 'cause
You'll be
I'm
recognized
talking about-
afterwards.
No, I'm talking about the same exact thing that they're all talking about, except I'm talking about what it's going to look like in the school. All right?
All right, Ms. Johnson. Have your
Yeah,
3
thank
minutes.
you, because it's 3 of your minutes. So, what does this look like in my school when I go back? Guys, I'm going to have to follow PSCA regulations, right? I'm going to be told what to do, which is going to be clocking in at a particular time, clocking out at a particular time, doing my expected job duties, right? Because that's what I get paid for, my expected job duties. Guess what? Our jobs go way beyond expected job duties. I don't clock out and not talk to a student when they're in the hallway and it's 3:15, guys. But that's what's going to start happening. Because you think that by just playing around with your numbers and then throwing an email out, when I do believe that my organization keeps telling me they're working in good faith with you. What is good faith when I, as a parent, received an email where you put the contract out for the public without any members knowing? Then, aside from just putting it out there and saying make a decision on your own, you wrote information based on the Pennsylvania state standard of what pay is, not Bucks County. And guess what? You live in Bucks County too. I used to live in Scranton. If I made what I make in Bucks County and took it back to Scranton, I'd be living good, but I don't live there. I live here. I live in your community. I live next to your kids. I teach them. I run into you in the grocery store. And when I go back to school, guess what? My students are going to carry this. Because I'm not going to be able to be filling the needs that they need beyond the public school day. Because you're forcing us. What do you want us to do? We don't want this. Just allow us to treat our students with dignity. Every student. The student you have that I might not agree with. The student you have that I might love just because they show up. Stop blocking the avenues like mental health. We have students coming back in the middle of this show that you're creating that, believe me, they watch. And they're coming into my classroom and they're bringing this. And you don't have any support for them because the person who was there to support them left. Because they can't even figure you out because you don't even identify what it is you need. You need people in the school supporting your kids emotionally and mentally because the academics, they're not learning if they can't be in the classroom.
Thank you, Ms.
Focusing. Peace.
All right. Moving on. The superintendent's personnel and EDR reports. We get a motion to approve the superintendent's personnel and EDR reports.
I'd like to amend the personnel report, please. Item number 118. We were promised a conversation, if you recall. I know we didn't have a meeting in July, but back in June, we were promised a conversation about the data instructional coach position that we were supposed to have before we ever brought this item up again. And since we haven't met since June, we obviously haven't had that conversation. So we should vote on that item separately, and I would ask you to live by what you promised, which was to have a conversation.
I guess if I understand correctly, Ms. Cullen, the motion is to take 118 separately?
Take it separately, remove it, which, I mean, can we remove it completely? Because we did not have the conversation.
You can make a motion, well, currently it's part of the entire personnel report.
Correct.
You could make a motion to vote on it separately. If a majority agrees, then that's fine. If not, then 118 would stay with the personnel report. In addition, until there's well, let's start with that. So Ms. Cullen is making a motion to remove 118 from the personnel report and vote on separately. That needs a second.
Second.
Ron, second.
A second from Mr. Wertz. And so we'll need a majority of people to vote to take that out. If a majority of people don't, then it stays in.
Okay, so again, back in June, we had this conversation, and I don't know if, bless you, if, you know, you were just paying lip service to actually having a conversation, a discussion about terminating a position, you know, just to get everybody to forget about it and be quiet and then sneak it back onto this agenda. I don't know if this was an oversight, a mistake, whatever, but we have not had a conversation about this position, and it just so happens to be a position that has brought us the successes that we've been pointing to. Our, you know, our ability to get rid of those learning losses from COVID, our successes with remediating students for any number of reasons besides COVID learning losses. We have not had an adequate conversation about this position, and it's back on this agenda, and it should not be here.
Ms. Cullen, I do want to clarify one thing. Ms. Clemmer had a year-to-year contract to be an instructional coach, and I believe that this 118 merely assigns her to be a math teacher at the high school because she has no other assignment because the instructional coach position has not been approved for a third year. And Ms. Mossman, is that correct?
Yeah, but the reason it wasn't was because of board leadership. I believe the administration.
I understand. I just want to make clear what we are and are not
Okay,
Well,
well,
who made a decision to eliminate that position, though, not to continue it? When was that decision?
Mr. Russell, the position itself was only approved by the board the year before for one more year.
so
it
when we had
automatically
the,
went
yes,
out.
when we had the conversation about this position originally, we all agreed that we would have a conversation, about renewing it. That conversation never happened, and then somewhere in the shadows, a message got sent, the superintendent was directed to eliminate that position without any conversation. No matter how you slice it, whether it was a year position or not, the agreement at the time was that we were going to have a conversation about where, the progress that we saw with this position. Was there progress? Was there not progress? That was all determined when we created it, that we would have a conversation about it. We did not have the conversation we were promised.
And part of that conversation should include, it's confusing to me why we would eliminate that role or position or title, whatever it is, but we've got a secondary instructional coach opening on the personnel open positions report.
But I just want to be clear about the posture of this. The agreement itself, the board approved last year for 1 year. There's no motion to approve the agreement for another year. Maybe there will be on the 28th or whatever. What is on the agenda to vote for tonight is merely to assign Stacy Clammer, or 118, to the high school as a math teacher. That's it. If you want to take 118 out, that's what's currently on the table. There's a motion and a second. Ms. Cullen has explained why she wants to do that. So the question is whether or not the majority of the board wants to take 118 out and vote it separately or not.
So, just to be clear, if we take 118 out and then we have a discussion on the 28th about this position, this employee, we're not approving her as a math teacher, which I assume there's been conversation that she wants to move in that position.
Ms. Clammer, the person at 118 would not have an assignment. Is that right, Ms. Mossman?
Yes, because the position was only approved for 1 year.
Right, so this is necessary to put that person in that position. If the board chooses to take it up on the 28th and change that, then that happens.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to take it off. I would not be in favor if that means she can't move into a math position. As far as the position itself for data coach, I feel like we're really close to a new superintendent and we let them decide what positions. There's a lot of organizational things, and have this conversation when he or she or
Well, we were
Yeah,
promised that conversation
Yeah, we were
2
promised
months
the
ago.
conversation, we were
just
promised
pushing
the
it off down the
conversation
road,
already.
so.
We were already promised the conversation. That conversation was promised, by the way, after it was already announced that the superintendent would be resigning. So you were aware of that fact. So this seems like game playing to me. Jam us up, so, now she's not going to have a position come the first day of school, and won't that be a shame? That's your doing. It's your doing by your
That's not a
dishonesty.
position.
It is
I
that you're
vote
doing by
118
your
and then she's
dishonesty.
still in position.
Okay, there's no vote yet. I mean, we're still in discussion.
The one thing that we talked about, I think at the last meeting, was how beneficial the data coach was to targeting our students that needed some particular help, and that's what increased our scores. I thought there was a real, at least
Yes,
solidarity
there was
around
support
it,
from
right?
the administration and support from the teachers that this was helpful. It was just members of the board who didn't want to renew the contract, and that's why it didn't go forward, and that's what we wanted to have a discussion about, because it was valuable.
So can we vote to place that person in the secondary instructional coach role that's currently vacant?
That would be yet another amendment to the agenda. I think what we're dealing with is now the amendment which takes 118 out for a separate vote. A yes vote means you're taking it out for a separate vote. A no vote means you're voting on the agenda as is.
I agree with Ricky's comment. I think that we should let the new superintendent make decisions about what the organizational structure should look like.
That was something, again, we decided this, and you knew that we were getting a new superintendent. That was a known fact. So you are just playing games, trying to push this and push this to get the decision that the 5 of you figured out on your own in private, which is inappropriate. So I mean, again, this is just incredibly dishonest, and I assume that you're probably going to do what you want to do because that's what you have been doing. But make no mistake about it, this isn't because we wanted to have a new superintendent make the decision. You know, it's not because this was a one-year assignment. We have known about this since, I mean, before June. We knew that you were attempting in the shadows to eliminate this position without discussion. So now to come here in August and say, oh, we're close to having a superintendent, we need to put this off. No, that doesn't fly. This is the same pattern of dishonest behavior to get what the 5 people on this board want, that they work out without any discussion, without any input, and it's wrong, and it should not continue.
Was absent grossly inappropriate, John?
Can I call for a roll call vote, please?
But did we decide, or are we pulling it out?
The roll call vote is on the question of whether or not 118 should be pulled out. If the vote is yes, 118 gets pulled out for a separate vote. If the vote is no, you vote on the personnel agenda as advertised.
Mrs. Bass Clemens?
No.
Ms. Paczynski?
Yes.
Mrs. Walgren?
No.
Mrs. Chaikin?
No.
Mr. Cormack?
No.
Mrs. Cullen?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
No.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Wurst?
Yes.
All right, we now need a motion for the personnel agenda.
All right. You got a motion?
I have to vote no, because they're so
Okay,
dishonest.
my motion for the personnel agenda.
They're so dishonest, it's unbelievable.
Hang on one second.
Honest to God, don't know how you guys sleep at night. Morally corrupt.
Can I get a second? We get a second?
The motion on the floor is to approve the EDR report and the personnel report. It's a motion by Mr. Rice, second by Ms. Blumberg.
All those in favor? Comments or questions?
What are we voting on, the remainder of the personnel report?
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So if, procedurally, if we felt that we'd like to have the data coach position back, what's the process by which that would happen, Mr. Miller?
So you could make a motion at the next meeting regarding the data or the instructional coach position, but that amendment has already been voted down for now. But at the meeting on the 28th, you could rejoin that issue. Does that make sense, Mr.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I guess once again, we're being put into a situation where we're being forced by this, you know, finagling, maneuvering, completely dishonest, you know, just total misconduct. And we're being put into a situation where effectively we would be firing someone tonight, taking away her position, taking away her job, her livelihood, if we don't vote yes. So I just want that on the record, that that's how this board majority operates, that they force you into these situations so that we have to do something that we don't really want to do, but we have to do it, because if we don't do it, tomorrow they'll say, isn't it awful that they took away that woman's position? So I'm going to just let you know now, that's how we have to vote tonight.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Shame
Sounds
on you.
unanimous. All right, moving on. Approval of the Bucks IU agreement. Motion to approve with retroactive effect to July 1st, 2023, an agreement to retain the Bucks County Intermediate Union to assist the district in identifying and selecting a new superintendent and reimburse them for any costs incurred facilitating the process in the amount not to exceed $7,000. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
A motion and a second. Comments or questions?
I actually do like the idea of what was presented tonight by a person that made public comment. I never thought about it before, but You know, we do have at some points a board member or two, typically only at the end of interview processes for cabinet members or cabinet members or high-level positions. We usually have maybe one board member or two board members that go basically to observe. So it wouldn't be too late to include some other folks in the process. And I think maybe we should consider that, since we are able to sit in on other interviews. Maybe we should open that up and talk about having a different set of eyes in the interview process.
Each of the unions as well as
Oh,
the
Megan,
cabinet sat
Megan,
down.
can you start back
Yeah.
again?
Okay, yes, I just wanted to share that the IU administration sat down and had visioning exercises with the leadership from each one of our unions, as well as the cabinet, so that they could provide their input, and all of that information was collected and shared with us, so that we know what they're looking for in the next superintendent. So all groups were included in that process. I think that's important. And there was also a question about what board members are participating, and I think we need to make clear all 9 board members are involved in the interview process.
Is there any prohibition against having a staff member, a faculty member, and a student member in the interviews, just from a procedural standpoint?
So, Mr. Russell, to answer your question, the contract at section 2F says that it's the Board of School Directors that will determine the candidates they wish to bring in for all stages of the interview process and the practices they will use to interview those individuals. So you can approve the contract and discuss amongst yourselves, any kind of process issues.
Yeah, I was just looking from a legal standpoint. I've been a part of other presidential searches for organizations, and we did have a member of the faculty, the staff, and the student. And then the issue was whether they couldn't necessarily have a vote, but they would have an active part in participating in the vetting process, which was interesting because they do, as was indicated, have a unique perspective. So there's nothing that you're aware of, Mr. Miller, legally that would prevent that from happening.
There's nothing that prohibits the participation of people in that mode. Of course, they could not participate in any executive session or any kind of deliberation of the board itself, but in terms of vetting or being an observer at an interview or something like that, there's nothing that's impermissible either under the contract or the school code if the Board of School Directors would agree to do that. What I would say, though, again, is that you don't have to amend the contract or prolong the vote on this contract to do that because it's already in there.
Well, I think it's important for us to decide. I mean, we can have the vote on the contract. I see what you're saying there. But I think we would have to decide tonight, and board members know why, that we should make a decision tonight about whether we would welcome people to come in to observe. And I think if we ask that to be involved, ask that of the administration to be able to sit in on interviews, then I don't see what's wrong with the request to have a representative from those groups mentioned.
I'm not necessarily opposed, it doesn't matter who would sit in, but we're using the IU because this is what they do and this is the way they set it up. So why would we change in the 11th hour? Like, we're pretty close.
Well,
and
because,
have
I mean, if you remember,
results.
back when we started this conversation, I had asked for a special board meeting. Here again, if 3 board members ask for a special board meeting, the president of the board is supposed to schedule a special board meeting. And the reason why I asked for a special board meeting, and we have to have at least 3 people, we had 4 people who wanted to have a special board meeting. The reason why I wanted to have a special board meeting was to have this discussion. How should we go through this process? Take some feedback, hear from the community. And now here again, we're in the 11th hour, and the comment is coming, well, we really can't change anything now because we're in the process. But that was my point from the beginning, and I didn't even get a response to my email requesting a special board meeting. So we could have had this conversation. We could have received that feedback
Well, when
back in July.
When we Zoomed with Bucks County IU and we
Ricky,
were
that's
all
not the
told
same thing about
how-
having, that's
how we
not the
wanna do
same
this.
thing.
Why
No,
wasn't it
that's
shared
not the
then?
same thing. I asked for a special board meeting, and I specifically said, so that we could inform the public of how we were going to go through this process, and so that we could receive feedback on our intended process. I did not even get a response from our board leadership.
The motion on the table is whether or not to approve the contract as written. And so the vote that you're undertaking is to approve the contract, and as I've already indicated in section 2F, the board, in consultation with the IU and Dr. Hoffman, can make whatever decision it wants going on from here about what it wants to do relative to interviews. But the vote, the motion on the floor and the second is just to approve this contract.
Okay.
I also think it's important for the public to know that there's no cost associated with this other than the expenses. So the IU is not charging us for their time in doing this. I just think that's important for the public to be aware of as well.
Actually, Mr. Russell, it's the expenses are $1,500 and the total cost is $7,000. But in terms of the cost, yes, you're exactly right.
Okay.
There is a limit on the cost, but the cost relative to the assistance in creating an appropriate market and identifying the appropriate individuals is, I think, far outweighed by the help that you're getting from the IU. So again, the motion on the floor is to approve this agreement.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So when will we have a discussion and an answer about the question from the community member?
I think the board, as it's been talking to Dr. Hoffman as a group of 9, should talk to Dr. Hoffman as a group of 9 amongst itself, which you can do.
I guess we can do that Wednesday when we're.
All right. Back to public comment, and we're going to go back to Adam Benson.
Actually, I would like to say something, please, before public comment. I would like to respond to Mrs. Baumgren's August 10th letter in the Bucks County Herald, since
Mr.
we didn't
Benson,
get the
sorry,
opportunity.
Thank you.
I'll start where she finished. She said she wants a rigorous and unbiased curriculum, quote, where students are presented the facts and taught to think critically and come to their own conclusions rather than being told what to think, end quote. It's a puzzling assertion for someone who, along with 4 other board members, has consistently worked in direct conflict with that philosophy. The actions of the 5, Banis Clemens, Baumgren, Chaikin, Cormack, and Rice, have prevented stakeholders from having all the facts and being able to think for themselves. They have consistently refused to provide information on important matters and repeatedly blindsided teachers, administrators, and fellow board members. They've also refused repeated requests to allow thorough research and development and consideration of a number of issues, but most recently, the Vermillion contract, which they see as a crowning achievement. In her letter, Mrs. Blomgren asserted that the Vermillion contract is basically the best, most favorable, and most transparent contract of all time in Pembridge, which is another attempt to gaslight. To explain, I'll compare it to a current engineering project, the construction of the district's salt storage facility, which you saw mentioned tonight will be discussed 3 more months from now. That fairly straightforward project was discussed at length, not only at multiple Pembridge Facility Committee meetings, but also at multiple East Rock Hill Township Planning Commission meetings. Public feedback was taken and used to adjust the plans. This went on for months, and the shed went through several iterations before a final design was approved. All that effort for just a salt storage facility. But when it comes to curriculum, the most fundamental part of any school system, the current board majority isn't as concerned about vetting, discussion, feedback, options, and transparency. With Vermillion, neither our district administration, professional educators, board members, nor any other stakeholders were permitted to give input. A no bid, no scope, no limit contract was dropped onto a board business agenda out of nowhere, with scarcely the 24 hours of public notice required. The previously named 5 board members voted in support of Vermillion, offering no explanation for how they all came to that decision. How did those 5 board members know it was a good contract and that Jordan Adams offered a quality product? Why weren't we allowed to consider other consultants for such a comprehensive job? Why was no scope outlined in the contract? Who initiated the relationship? Who vouched for Adam's abilities? The 5 board members didn't think administration, teachers, and fellow board members deserved answers to those questions. Even more disrespectful, they didn't think their constituents deserved answers to those questions. They claimed the opposition was only from a small group of partisan community members, denying the reality that the people we heard from were representative of all ideologies. The 5 deflected to avoid providing all the facts. Instead, they dictated what we could think and what would happen. Does that behavior match the freedom of thought, parental rights, and student choice banners they wave? Not at all. They didn't give anyone a voice or a choice, and now they're desperately trying to rewrite history. The 5 board members and their novice consultant don't want themselves held to the same standards to which they demand school administration and teachers be held. In a conference presentation Jordan Adams gave earlier this summer, he implored his audience to hold administrators and teachers accountable. He told them to demand transparency, specifically to tell the district, quote, "We want all the information," and to demand that information be given at least a week in advance of any meetings. It's pretty amazing, given the way that Mr. Adams and the board majority have behaved here in Penn Ridge. For example, when I asked Jordan Adams who had initiated contact between him and Penn Ridge, he wouldn't answer the question. Similarly, another board member and I asked for all the notes from one of his meetings, which we were barred from attending, and Mr. Adams pretended to not understand what we were asking. He must have forgotten this advice he gave at the summer conference talk, quote, "Enact some sort of document preservation policy. Say you need to keep them, you may not delete them," end quote. Does Mr. Adams not take notes at his meetings? If he does, where are they? Why couldn't board members know exactly what was discussed? Jordan Adams and those 5 board members seem to view themselves as above everyone else. They think their cause is so noble, no method they employ nor any decree they make should be questioned. Mr. Adams used the word accountable repeatedly throughout his summer conference talk. He told the audience not to accept, quote, baloney excuses and stonewalling. He characterized himself as, quote, the fox in the hen house, and those who raise objections to his work as simply partisan goons. Mr. Adams' inflammatory rhetoric reminded me of when the National School Board Association attempted to enlist the services of the U.S. Department of Justice and the FBI to intimidate and harass concerned citizens who the NSBA characterized as potential domestic terrorists for committing the sin of speaking against school board policies at board meetings. Back then, I wrote a letter to the U.S. Secretary of Education on behalf of the school board expressing our disgust and rebuking the NSBA. While Mr. Adams' politically charged comments might come from the opposite side of the spectrum from the NSBA, they are equally worthy of rebuke as they serve only to divide and bring even more tension to our schools. No one is a goon for wanting taxpayer money to be spent wisely on the very best education it could buy for our students. People aren't goons for expecting due diligence to be done before making major decisions or for wanting some of those parental rights Mr. Adams and the 5 speak of so often. I don't think I'm a goon, nor is anyone else who has asked very legitimate questions and raised legitimate concerns about Mr. Adams and the services he's supposed to be providing. I am a duly elected school board director who, together with the district administrators, our professional educators, and some of my board colleagues, is trying to fulfill my sworn duty to create and maintain a public school system that provides the highest quality education possible in an environment free of political activism, self-serving agendas, and hypocritical grifting, no matter which side of the political spectrum is guilty of it. We can't accomplish that in our current state. But we can remedy this situation and give our children the education they deserve by doing the following. Number 1, immediately sever our contract with Jordan Adams and Vermillion. Number 2, since school will start on August 28th, allow our teachers to maintain the status quo for this year vis-a-vis our 9th grade social studies and humanities courses. Number 3, approve paid curriculum development hours for our professional educators to write new curriculum for the 24-25 school year. Number 4, if the board and administration choose, issue an RFP for a qualified educational consulting firm to provide guidance and oversight of curriculum writing, and go through the full appropriate acquisition process for the consultant. And finally, number 5, ensure our agreed-upon board procedures for curriculum approval are followed, i.e., that the curricula are discussed at no fewer than 2 public curriculum committee meetings before being brought to a business meeting for a vote. We need to do this now. We must put our focus back where it belongs, on our students and our sworn duties to them. They are not to be used to advance anyone's political or personal agendas. They deserve better. I think it's out in the paper, but there's limits. And if anybody wants, I have his presentation. I wish I could go through it. It was an hour and 20 minutes, and if you go through this presentation, all 28 pages of it, I did read it, and to verify that the transcript was accurate, I watched it and listened to him. I highlighted. He contradicts himself over and over again. Everything that he says that we should demand of the administration, he defies, and they have defied. I also forgot to mention earlier that we really do need an interim superintendent because there's not going to be anybody in charge of our buildings on the.
Is timely be in order? It's Mr. Benson's turn to speak.
Mike, I'm sorry.
Oh,
No,
yeah, sure.
Sorry, Adam. Before addressing a couple things Mrs. Cullen said, I wanted to reply to some of the public comments. And I know this won't be well received necessarily by everybody, or believed, I should say. How the narrative got out that we don't like teachers, we're against teachers. I can tell you myself, every single one of my kids who graduated had multiple teachers at my home for the graduation party. Jordan is an awesome teacher. I talk to her on her prep period almost every day, and kids are in and out of her room all the time. I taught at one point, Mrs. Cullen taught at one point, Megan taught, Jonathan has teaching staff and his family, so that's just not true at all. It's not accurate. It's a school, but it's a business, and there's like anything else in the world, a couple bad apples and a bunch of great, like awesome people. So that's how we really feel, number one. Number two, just please, I listen to you, just try to be quiet.
Just needs to be in order for everyone. Thank you.
The spin, I guess, whatever's going on, that this is a Penridge problem. It's not. It's a national problem. We have 2,094 applicants right now for 68 open positions. That's 31 applications for every single position. So people do still want to come to Penridge. Teachers aren't leaving, and if they are, I understand some people don't like the Vermillion contract. Everybody who goes to work every day has something in their job they don't like. You don't quit because a consultant was hired that you don't like.
Please be in order. Thank you.
As to some of Joan's comments, last year, Joan, when you first became board president, one of the first things you did when there was hundreds of people out here asking for a DI committee was Canon. So please stop talking about stakeholders. Number two, when you were curriculum chair, we had DEI consultants come in and out who gave no public presentations, no reviews to the board, vague invoices, I have them, that say Zoom meeting, $1,600. So let's end that. Hillsdale and Jordan Vermillion, very often, you and myself and Ms. Baticki and Mrs. Blomgren talked about how great Hillsdale is. I'm pretty sure I took a course with you and talked about implementing our curriculum. So pick one side. I don't even care which one. Just pick one instead of continuing to divide the community. Meeting after meeting.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh.
Nobody was barred from attending a meeting. You can't have the whole school board there or else it's a public meeting.
No.
Yes, no, you can't.
We didn't ask for the full board. We asked for at least the curriculum committee members. And
No,
to
I'm
your
not
comment
talking. I just
about
listened to you for like 30
okay,
seconds.
well, I will
Just be
answer your
quiet.
questions because you are once again
I'm not
lying.
asking
But go
you
on.
questions.
And
Just
with
asking
one
you
person
quiet.
speak,
Once again,
Ms.
lying.
Cullen, can Ricky have the floor and then?
Sure.
And as far as our social studies curriculum, you, or all of us, voted down the curriculum that the staff brought us last January. We said no, we need something better. You did. So please stop acting like a martyr for all the teachers when you disagreed with it as well. And now it's finally getting addressed because you're, thank God, not the curriculum chair anymore, and you don't like the way it's going.
No.
You also didn't want that curriculum. And as far as the supervisors, from what I understand, seem to be doing great, and I think we have some really good courses coming. I guess we'll find out next Monday, hopefully. But mostly I just wanted to make comments to the public about the teachers. The only thing the 9 of us agree on, the only thing I think we've agreed on in a year is we want a really good contract for the teachers and we care about the staff.
Oh my
Outside of
gosh.
that, every executive
Oh my
session is an argument just like this.
So to the point about Hillsdale, yes, actually, it's funny. I got a mailer from Hillsdale just the other day because, yes, I do like certain parts of Hillsdale. But, you know, I also like, I don't know, I like Italian food, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to go to any Italian restaurant. You brought us someone who was not vetted. You didn't give anybody any choice. You made a contract with someone without allowing us to consider a number of options. And again, I don't have an hour and 20 minutes to walk people through his presentation point by point. But he demands that people be given choice and voice, and you guys did not do that. That's the problem with it. Regarding DEI, as soon as we found out about those things, we addressed them.
Why didn't
We
you
shouldn't
find out when
go
you were
back
curriculum
there.
chair?
We should
Why
not
didn't
go
you
back
find
there.
out?
Ricky,
Let me
she
finish.
has-
As soon as we found out about them, we addressed that and we took care to make sure that people didn't do things in the shadows anymore. But here you guys are now doing this work in the shadows. You're doing everything that you claim to be against. And as far as the community, I will gladly go back and I will find all of the information. There were people who did not want us to end DEI, but that was a split. You know, like there was more of a split. The opposition to what you 5 have been doing is universal, and it cuts across all political lines. This is not a political situation. Stop trying to say this is just like DEI or just like whatever. No. This is an entire community. When you have hundreds of people, and I mean hundreds, and we've had hours, and you don't have one person to come and speak on your behalf, that should tell you something. So please, stop throwing that
Mr. Benzick, it is finally your turn. Apologize for the interruption.
Try and follow that, Mr. Benson.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. But it did allow me to bring up one thing that I wasn't going to. To hear Ricky talk about bringing the community together, I would just recommend looking up her Facebook rant, where she talks, it's in a closed group, and she talks about Republicans winning. She doesn't mention anything about the students. I don't think there's anything about the school, but it's worth reading because it gives an insight into how the 5 people, the board majority works. I just wanted to bring up a couple of other things. The PEA, or the email about the contract negotiations was a little ridiculous because there's no, like, you're sending it to the community who has no context to it. It's just a bunch of cherry-picked numbers, and I don't know how you expect, I don't know. It's just a lot of cherry-picked stats, and it was ridiculous. Having the school board meeting on the first day of school, I think, is kind of ridiculous. I don't know whose idea that was, but I don't know. A lot of us care, and you've seen how many people are at the school board meetings, and having to come here on the first night of school is probably going to mess up some families, but I don't know, do what you got to do. The Family Foundation partnerships, the attack on the FFP contract, there was something I was going to, attack it, getting rid of that without having something in place to take it, like, it seems like complete lack of respect for the kids that have this program has helped for the last 3 years. Like, I would think that if you're gonna get rid of it, you really need to have something in place when you get rid of it. It's just complete lack of foresight, and children are getting hurt, gonna get hurt from it, and, yeah, that's all I got. Thanks.
I see that you guys did public comment. All right, that is any public comment?
I'm gonna keep it so short. It hasn't. Mr. Benz, just wanted to say that they withdrew the contract. We left that we were gonna have another meeting and they withdrew it. So that's what happened there, just for some clarity.
Well, actually, you drug them into this.
All right, thank you. That one's in order. Thank you very much.
Our next school board meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 28th, 2020.